let's talk about how you can add an extra 10K to your MRR in your SaaS without getting any extra single new user, and how you can use the current users that you have to make more MRR. Now, that being, let's say if you want to scale your MRR to an extra 10K, 20K, or you just want to 2x your MRR, get to your first 50K or get to your next 100K MRR, then watch this video, because what I'm going to be talking about may sound a bit bizarre to the common to the common beliefs that you see on Twitter, on YouTube, that is regarding SaaS growth and all that stuff, because I'm actually going to be talking about something that is quite different and interesting, and hope that this can be valuable to you so that you can actually apply it to your own SaaS. Now, the most common belief when it comes to, SaaS growth, that being, let's say you want to make your first 10K, 15K, doesn't matter. You all have the same belief to ship your product, do some marketing with the intention to get signups with the marketing efforts that you put out. You'll be spending 6 to 12 months doing all this and you'll be getting results. But then you find yourself being at 10 to 20 km/h stuck. And that is who this video is going to be for. This video is those of you who are doing anywhere from 10 to 20 km/h, but why are you stuck? You're doing all this effort, you really have a solid proven system. I mean, hell, that's the reason why you're getting signups. That's the reason why you are able to make 10 km/h. This happens because you're solving the wrong problem. You may think the solution to this is to do more. Since your proven system has already worked, why not just do more? To do more traffic, to get more signups, to build more features that people don't really ask for. This may sound like, it makes sense, right? To just do more. But there's one crucial part that you are missing here, and that is to focus on your internal growth. Truth be told, you don't really know what are the problems that you're solving. And I can't really blame you, because you're too close to your product. You've been spending so long to just you've been spending all this time just being close to your product. So of course you're gonna be missing one or two points that you can't see, but maybe someone like me who's seeing this from a bird's eye perspective can easily just spot it out. And that one crucial part is this. You need to be fixing your monetization with the current users that you have. And then that is when you can scale acquisition. Once you fix the internal growth, then you get that sorted. This is when you can actually go all in into your external growth, like customer acquisition. You don't really need more users per se. I mean, sure, I know some of you may argue and say that there's always a chance for me to get more users, but that's not the point. The point that I want to talk about is this. You don't really need more users, but what you need is to monetize the current users that you already have. And I'm gonna show you some simple math when it comes to conversion rate. Let's say, for example, your conversion rate is at 5% and your churn rate is at 15% annually. Do you realize that just those two metrics of your conversion rate being low and your churn rate being high is the same analogy of, let's say you want to build a sports car on your own. You're an engineer, you want to build your own sports car, but you're building the car with scrappy parts. Sure, yeah, it may run for a couple miles, but then eventually, once you're driving your car at top speed, things will start to break apart. The engine oil will start to break, the exhaust pipe will fucking start smoking and all that shit. The main point that I'm trying to say is this. If let's say you are scaling your product at the current state that you're right now, you're basically bringing in traffic to a product with broken systems. This is what happens when you go all in into external growth, doing all the sales and marketing shit, and then you neglect the external growth like your conversion rate, your churn rate, your lifetime value, and all that shit. And to be fair, the reason why most founders are blind to it is because this is a problem that doesn't really happen overnight, or you can't really say it straight on, right? Because for example, if let's say your MRR isn't growing, or people are churning at your product, that's obvious. You can see a dip in your Stripe account, or you get the cancel notifications of those users who are canceling the subscription plan. Those are straightforward because you can just see immediately. But when it comes to this sort of problem that I'm talking about, it's like a plague, like a disease, where it's gonna build itself up without you knowing, and then once the virus spreads, that's the word I'm looking for, virus, not disease, fucking same thing. But once it start to spread, it's gonna happen rapidly, and the moment when you realize it, it's gonna be way too late. So how it's supposed to look like is focusing on monetization first, your internal growth part first. And then that's when you can start to add more features that you want to add. This is when you can start doing the marketing, the acquisition, the sales, and all those sort of content that you want to do. But most founders do it in reverse. Because I mean, building your features, coding, doing more development, more building in public, sure, yeah, it feels like progress. When fixing your funnels feels like it's, tedious work. It feels boring, right? That's like the unsexy side of things, but this is just like a general rule of thumb in business. Usually the more boring a thing is, the more ROI that it brings. So now let's actually get into it. How do you then actually make more MRR without getting any more new users? You do this by going into the product-led growth strategy. And for those of you are wondering, maybe some of you may already know, some of you may not. I'm just gonna, elaborate. Product-led growth strategy, I'm just gonna call it PLG. Basically means to grow your product with the internal things like your retention, your activation, your conversions, your retention, your ARPU, reducing your churn. These are the things that are internal, and this is how you're gonna be leveraging them to grow your SaaS. This is what PLG stands for. Basically means that you're relying on whatever the internal thing in your product is to make more fucking money. And then on the contrary to that is the sales-led growth, SLG. Now this is more of like the well-known strategy where you go into marketing, you do your content, you do paid ads, and this is how you actually get users to make more money. Now I preach everyone watching this video, if you run a B2B SaaS, to lean into the product-led growth strategy and then go with the sales-led strategy. And this is gonna make your life easier. I'm making this video with the intention so that you can win. And I'm gonna get more deeper into it as to why. The main reason being is when you focus on the sales-led growth strategy first, that's like filling water in a leaky bucket. And in order for you to overflow that leaky bucket, you're basically putting a lot of pressure on yourself and your team because there's a leak in your bucket and you're constantly trying to fill that flow with new users over and over again. And then those leak came from users who churn or users who don't activate, and then they basically just don't pay for your product. But if you're to go with the PLG growth strategy first, then you don't have to worry about all that stuff. So all in all, you're basically getting rid of a lot of feature headaches that you would otherwise face in the future. Now, PLG only works if the value of your product can be seen at first sight, meaning your time to value has to be fast. Now, when it comes to the time to first value, a lot of founders, myself included, were to think that the first value of your product comes from the UI. When users sign up, and then that's when they get into the UI to see the first value moment. I disagree with that. The first value moment actually comes from your landing page. This is when people get to see what your product does. When people read your hero section, this is when they actually get to understand what your product does, and it's your job to convince them why should they actually sign up and create an account. So now we can put that aside. The first time to value always happens in the landing page. Now this is so-called like the make or break point whether a user get excited to try a product or not. And now there are only really three ways on how you make money in SaaS. Only three levers. And that is number one, to increase the number of customers that you have. Number two, to increase your average revenue per user. And number three, to reduce your churn. Unless you're just a complete beginner, you're at 1K MRR and you're completely just starting out, increasing your average revenue per user and reducing your churn will always have a greater return than to just increase the number of your customers. And this is how you build a SaaS that is product led. I'm gonna go through the second one, which is increasing your average revenue per user, ARPU. I'm just gonna call it that. ARPU basically means how much does your each customer pay on average. Okay, firstly, let's talk about the common interpretation to increase your ARPU. Most people think that, or to just increase your average revenue per user is by to just increase your pricing, make it more expensive, have more pricing tier lists and all that stuff. But I mean, that's like common advice that everyone hears all the fucking time. So I'm gonna give you some like actual game on how you can actually increase your ARPU right here, right now. And that is to cart those low tier plans that attracts bad fit customers. Because for some of you who may have a low ARPU, the most common reason as to why that happens could be because you have a low tier plan like $5, $8, $10 per month that only attracts those users who are price sensitive. So if your $10 per month plan only attracts those people who are, stingy, then kill that plan. Because what's the fucking point of you having users who would only pay 1 or 2 months for a product if they're just gonna churn anyway? It is way rather for you to have like less customers with a longer lifetime value. And so a way for you to justify having a higher price is by having a strong value proposition in your landing page, like how I talked about just now. When people get into your landing page, you gotta hype them up, you gotta make them excited, you gotta make them believe on why you're different compared to the other competitors that they see. And make sure that when they read your copy, when they scroll through your landing page, is it just digestible? Is it simple to understand? Your features, is it simple to read and all that stuff? So when it comes to having a strong, quick value proposition in your landing page, is to just ask yourself, how can you help them within 60 seconds of them reading your landing page? That is how you justify having a higher price. And by having a higher ARPU, let's say your pricing list, I'm talking about to start it at least $20 per month when it comes to a yearly plan. But when it comes to like your monthly month to month plan, maybe you can start at like 25 $30 per month. Because dude, like let me tell you. Well, I mean, it all relies on two things. Number one, who are you selling to? For those of you, if you're selling a B2B service, then chances are your product can, I mean, your ICP can afford like a higher tier plan. That's number one, is to understand who are you selling to and to ensure can they actually even uh afford your pricing tier list. And number two is just about your copy, man. It's just about your value proposition. So that's just one way on how you increase your ARPU. Now to then talk about the other thing, and that is to reduce your churn. Cutting down your churn doesn't only just stop the bleeding, but it multiplies your lifetime value. I want to use an example of this. Let's say your average churn rate it's at 10%. And then your average lifetime value is at 6%, which can be equivalent to $500, for example. And let's say another scenario where your average churn rate is 5%. So which means your average time to value is 12 months because we're doubling the amount, which is equivalent to $1,000 as your LTV. If you to kind of like compare these two scenarios, you would notice that the lifetime value doubled without you having to add any extra new users. And now, how do you actually reduce your churn? Well, there are two ways. The first one being to improve your activation rate. The first way on how you can improve your activation rate is by reducing your time to value. Maybe reduce it by below 5% on average, or like the sweet spot can be around 3 to 4%. Now, when it comes to your time to value into the UI, I really, really, really believe that any product can provide any sort of value, any small win within 5 minutes of a user signing up to your product. Even in the onboarding process, you can get it done under 5 minutes. I know that this can be done because any product can show a form of a small win. Any product. And so this doesn't necessarily have to be anything big, anything like have to be anything crazy for them to see a value. No, when it comes to the time to value early on, it just means can your user believe that your product can actually solve that problem via action. Now, the second way is to remove any unnecessary steps in your onboarding steps. Cut anything that doesn't serve activation. There's a product called snapper.com. They did a audit on the product and they basically removed like one or two steps in their onboarding process. Just by removing this one two thing, Snapper found out that their revenue actually increased by 20, or I think it was like by 30%. just by removing some unnecessary steps. So, dude, like, I'm telling you jolly well, just look at map out your whole entire onboarding process, and then look at what are the things that you can actually remove. If something seems unnecessary, by that I mean if it doesn't serve any activation, then just fucking get rid of that step. And the third way is to add some product bumpers. Now, by product bumpers, I'm talking about checklists, progress bars, tool tips that guide your users to their first win. Now, whilst I'm mentioning all of this, some of you may think that, oh, this is just like very generic stuff. Like, I really know of this stuff. But that is also the same reason why maybe perhaps that you're stuck, because again, you don't know what problems to solve. What I found out when it comes to working with founders who are already at 10K, 20K MRR is that you're really only about two to three tweaks away to increasing your MRR by 20%, 30%, 40%. Just one or two tweaks away. And that tweaks can be like the most smallest things, like to have some confetti when a user were to complete the first setup. Because as you know, like when you have some confetti effect, that actually brings in some momentum in your product. So now the second way on how you can reduce your churn is by building retention loops. Just to understand that users churn when they stop using your product. So what you want to do is build habit loops to ensure that your users come back to your product daily. And you do this by building the retention loop of these three things: trigger, action, reward. The first one is when you trigger any urge in your user to return back to your product. For example, that could be maybe a user were to think that, oh, I need to check my pipeline every single day to see how my automation is going on. That's a trigger of an urge. The second one is action. What do they do once they actually are triggered to come back to your product? An example of that could be, let's say you get them to open the CRM, you get them to see the deals of the pipeline of the dashboard. And then the third one is reward. Reward are basically any sort of accomplishments, fulfillment for them to feel when they complete the action that you get them to do. And that reward could be any emotion from clarity, control, repeatedness, fulfillment, actually feeling the sense of productivityness, if that's a word. And the more you complete this loop, the harder it is for them to leave because they're already in your retention habit loop. So again, I really just want to clarify, just by you dropping your churn from, let's say, 20% to 10%, just by cutting it in half or by 40%, your lifetime value doubles. And every customer that you acquire now is twice as valuable as before. And so I know that's a lot of info that I've basically just spilled out here. So I'm gonna try my best to summarize everything so that it's more digestible for you. The reason why you're stuck at 10 or 20K MRR in the first place is because you're solving the wrong problem. What you should be solving is monetization with the current users that you have instead of continuously trying to chase new customers. Because if you're constantly trying to overflow the leaky bucket, it's gonna put a lot of pressure on you and your team, because you would find yourself trapped on the acquisition treadmill trying to chase new users every time when those common users would just churn after 2 months. So you don't really need new users. What you need is to monetize those users that you already have. And how you do that, how you actually make more money with the current users that you already have, is by building a SaaS that is product led. And how you build a SaaS that is product led is by focusing these two things. That is to increase your ARPU and to reduce your churn. How you increase your ARPU is by cutting those low tier pricing lists that only attracts low price sensitive customers who only churn after 1 or 2 months of using a product. These people are stingy. You don't want them to really be in your product for long, because they're going to be price sensitive, and if they face any bad experience with your product, they're just going to leave you on a bad review. And how you reduce your churn is by two ways. Increase your activation rate. You improve your activation rate by reducing the time to value, reducing steps in your onboarding processes, and by adding product bumpers in a form of, checklists, progress bars, confetti, celebratory moments, stuff like this. So with all that being said, I've really given you the strategies and the frameworks on how you can scale your MRR without getting any more users. Now I'm gonna break some bad news to you, and that is you're gonna struggle still because you're only gonna see things from your perspective. And when you see things from your perspective, you're gonna miss out on the very minute important things that you wouldn't otherwise see. Now you might think that, oh, like I have my engineers, I have my technical guys, they can help me with this, which they may on papers that may seem right. But the issue with that is your engineers can help you with basically everything. They can help you build fucking anything. But what they can't tell you is why 80% of your users are leaving, why they don't activate, why do your users churn only just after 2 months, and why is your ARPU stuck? Because when it comes to technical problems, when it comes to your coders, your developers, your engineers, they can only solve problems that is, like coding based, like engineering based. But the problems, or basically everything that I've talked about here, it's not just a coding problem. This is more of a product psychology problem. Everything that I've talked about here, has more to do with onboarding design, with upgrading triggers, with retention loops, and with value delivery. But I mean, look, I've really given you the strategies and the solution on how you can solve your problem, but here's the truth. You doing everything on your own is where founders fail. And this is why I exist as a B2B SaaS consultant, because I see things from a user's perspective. I'm not a fucking coder, alright? I know nothing about programming or engineering or nothing like that, which is why you need someone like me, because I literally see things from a user, and that is a direction that most founders need. So what you need is someone who's just 1 or 2 steps or 3 steps ahead from you, which is why I have all of the passion to create this content and why I'm making this video, to help you win. It is, I mean, I see it as my mission, it is really my obligation to partner with really cool products, founders who are already at 10 to 15K, 20K MRR, but you're stuck. That is who I'm targeting with, and that is who I want to work with. I want to partner with you so that we can make money together. Show you exactly where and why your revenue is bleeding. The onboarding step that is killing your activation, the retention loops that is missing, the missing upgrade triggers that you don't have, the pricing plans that can be get rid of. Then we fix things together. But to be fair, you've already watched all of this video till the end. I hope you find everything that I've shared here very valuable. I mean, to be fair, if you're really serious about scaling your SaaS, then under the description of this video, you can check out a video. It is another video that you can watch if you find this video available. I'm pretty damn sure you can find the video under the description available, and it is a video that tells you on how we can work together so that you can scale more MR. This is more of like the technical stuff on how does it actually look like if you want to work with me. But I mean, I don't really care if you click that video or not. I've really done my fair share of value by creating this video. And if you've already watched this video till the end, then I assume that you find this video valuable. But if you're really serious about scaling your MRR, you don't want to waste time, no more capital, and you don't want to hire the wrong set of people, you're really serious about this, then check out the link under the description of this video, and then we can make more money together. Let's go.